Roman J. Israel is an idealistic defense attorney whose life gets upended when his boss and mentor dies unexpectedly. He's then recruited to join a law firm led by an ambitious lawyer who was one of his mentor's former students. Israel's legacy of activism soon gets put to the test when he takes on the case of a young man accused of murdering a convenience store clerk.
I thought I thought it was kind of interesting movie. Um, I was honestly comparing it with our other two lawyer movies that we watched this month. Obviously, has no
Mhm.
comparison with Daredevil. It's way better to me than
Colin
Daredevil.
Farrell.
Oh, okay. So it is, yes, it does have Colin Farrell. You're right. And I think I was talking to
Oh.
Rowan. I said, like, I don't think we can ever have a Colin Farrell month because we kind of shut our load like this
Yeah.
month and last month with Colin Farrell. One of the things that I mentioned last show that I didn't like about Puncture was how non-focused it was on the law stuff. And
Mhm.
I'm a sucker for a good like law drama, courtroom drama thing. And I got this. Like this still had like a character study, like Rowan said,
Mm.
that I think just did a better job than Puncture.
It's like I would say towards the very beginning of the movie, I'm like, yes, this is really cool. I like where this is going. Halfway through the movie, I'm like, how long we got left? Because that's when it started to die. Because I like he got into that mental conflict or personal conflict of turning that guy in and getting the money. And then it just, to me, I think the movie kind of went downhill from there.
I agree, Kyle. This movie does meander a lot. Even in the what John read for the synopsis of this movie, he mentioned that there was like a political activism part of this, but that's actually a fairly small part of the movie. You know, it's
Hmm.
maybe a third of the movie, and it feels like this movie tries to do a whole bunch of stuff, and it doesn't really pick a particular lane to go in, but it does focus on Roman pretty much the whole time, which I thought
Hmm.
was pretty cool. And I love the character. I think it's played really, really well. Don't think I've seen Denzel Washington play a character like this before. I was trying to think of a time that Denzel Washington plays someone who isn't cool.
I enjoyed the character. I liked the character. Denzel Washington did a phenomenal job. He reminded me of his mannerisms and walk and everything reminded me of um a hobo clown. I liked the law aspect of it. I liked the fact that he was really smart in the law, but the character just didn't speak to me for some reason.
Yeah, because I felt the opposite. I mean, I really felt for him. The moment that I felt for him is when he was in the activist, the nonprofit place when he was looking for a job, and it's like this dude is basically on his who knows how long 30th 40th call, and he's just now getting in front of people, and he's on basically on the verge of tears because he's like, I'm desperate. I don't have a job. I don't have money. I know, the world today revolves around money, and that's what drives him. That's what started to drive him was money, instead of in the old days or in the old law firm was helping people. Because I think that's why he got into it, was because he was wanting to help people.
Well, and his partner in the beginning, they 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 had a symbiotic relationship.
Uh-huh.
His He did all the the backroom research and writing the briefs and all that, and the other guy was the face of the firm, and
Mhm.
actually was the courtroom guy and met the clients and all that good stuff, and that worked for them.
Mhm.
But I think I feel that his partner did that to help him too.
Mhm.
Like he was probably just as good, right?
Right.
At the briefs and all that. But he's like, I really like you. You're really smart, but people person you are not.
No. Yeah, that takes a
And
special skill for sure.
and you can kind of in a way, I feel his partner took advantage of him too
Mhm.
because he was working for $500 a week.
Yeah.
100%.
That's crazy.
After 30
500.
years, he has nothing too. Like,
Yeah, it just
or
it,
20
it
years, however long they were doing it for.
yeah, and then I mean, and there's no money for a severance package
Well, and you
for
kind of
him.
found out. You kind of found out through George coming in. He was like, "Yeah, I was the one with 6 law firms and 7 buildings or something like that. I was throwing you guys cases
Right.
that I didn't really give a crap about, or cases that I knew that these people weren't going to pay." So it's like I threw those guys to you. You guys really had nothing without me. And it was just like, oh, okay. So this place was in the negative, even with the daughter coming in saying, yeah, you guys were broke for the past 10, 15 years because we can't afford you anymore. We can't afford this law firm. So we just got to just wash it.
I want a turkey bacon maple donut though. That
Right.
sounds
Sounds
interesting.
I
delicious.
I did like when essentially he kind of snaps and is just like, "Hey, I'm just gonna take this money and do whatever I want." I could watch Denzel doing that for 2 hours. Just him when he has a hideous shirt and shorts combo and he's buying suits and
Mhm.
Just walking down the
getting
beach.
donuts and he's like Mr.
Yeah.
Magoo esque. I've really enjoyed that part of the movie. It worked. That part worked really well for me.
See, that's where I felt like that's where the movie started to flop for me. And I'm like, really? We're gonna cut from I guess it was just a mental snap. It's like, hey, I need to break away from all this lawyer stuff and just do what rich people do. They get to go to the beach and just not do anything except for eat bacon, glazed donuts or whatever it is.
He's never cared about money, and so that's what we're seeing is his his idea of what rich people do. People with money do. They go to the beach. They eat donuts. They get a hibiscus cherry whatever concoction that sounded so nasty that he was drinking.
Yeah.
They tip huge amounts,
Yeah, they tip huge. Yeah, because like what the donuts
left
and
him
the
80
drink was
bucks.
like 20, $15, and he gave him $100 bill.
Yeah,
Like keep
keep
the
the
change,
change.
you know.
Now, Rowan, you had an issue with Colin Farrell in this movie, didn't you?
Yeah, I just don't particularly think Colin Farrell's character is good or interesting. It could have been played by anybody. I don't think Colin Farrell really added anything by it being a big name actor. And also his accent, especially when he's introduced, keeps swapping between Irish and English, and it was dry or Irish and American. Like, I genuinely thought like, oh, he's like an Irish lawyer in America. That's interesting. And then, but it's like, no, it's just he just slipped out of his accent by accident, and he
Yeah, I
does it
wish
two
you
or
would.
three times at the start. It was driving me up the wall.
Yeah, I wish you would have just stuck with like, oh, he's like an Irish guy that happens to be practicing law.
I know why Rowan doesn't like it.
What?
He didn't have that cool jacket to flop around in.
Uh,
Yeah, that's
When
wouldn't
it.
have been
he's rushing
hilarious.
out of the office and everything, he's just like, "Hey, Rowan."
Yeah.
I did really like the ending though. I liked how the whole firm basically got together and took Roman's case. Pretty sure it was the giant activist case, the class action lawsuit thing of
Mhm.
how the law is not really fighting for the people. It's they're just all these attorneys are just making up terms and sentences and everything. It's just like it's wrong. This is not how our legal system is. And I really liked how they got together and they presented it to the local district court to, run it through. That was really neat. And that shot at the very end where the credits were rolling, but it was just a very slow
That's
truck shot.
the
And
longest
I'm
dolly
like,
shot I've ever seen.
it was
Mhm.
cool though. I liked
Yeah.
it because it just let it breathe. But there's still something happening. There's text of, directed by, composed by, acted by, whatever.
Mhm.
So it's a good backdrop besides just black screen.
I thought the writing was pretty good in this movie because there's a lot of like subtlety things that they did in the movie that I caught that a lot of movies like kind of like force they beat you over the head with things like okay, like for instance his partner is he has a heart attack, he's in the hospital. When George comes to see him, they walk into his partner's office and George makes an offhanded comment that's he says something like, oh, is this where the bulldog went to war,
Oh,
you know
right.
and then later on, he takes his partner's bulldog statue thing,
Hmm.
and they do like some interesting placement of it. So like, there's like a shot when Roman basically is trying to decide if he wants to give back the money or whatever he's trying to decide to do. He's standing in his window of his law office, and you see like the bulldog like looking over his shoulder, and a lot of little cool little things like that they did that I thought was like pretty interesting. But
Yeah, it's almost like his partner was was there looking over him of going, yeah, you should think about what you're doing. You should be doing the
Exactly.
right thing type thing.
Yeah. Trying to push him to the moral path.
And you can be right, but still not win.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big lesson, I think, in this film, because he was right in the courtroom, the very first the courtroom scene that he had, where he gets he gets held in contempt. He was right. The
Oh
judge
yeah.
should have the judge should have agreed with him, but he obviously didn't, and he just kept going because he's like, no, I'm right, and you're not listening to me. But ultimately, it doesn't matter because nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
That first shot though was, or that first scene with that in that courtroom, I'm like, if the whole movie's like this is going to be fantastic
Mhm.
because the writing in that courtroom was awesome, and I'm like, ooh, all right, Roman J. Israel Esquire, he's coming out with some punches.
So we need to see if we are going to stream it or skip it. I believe, Rowan, this was your movie to go on the wheel, so I'm going to start with you. Are you going to stream it or skip it?
I'm going to stream it.
Okay, Kyle.
I'm definitely going to stream this movie as well.
Okay, John.
I'm gonna skip it.
Okay, I'm going to say stream it as well. So that's interesting. We are 3-1. We are actually recommending to stream Roman J. Israel Esquire. So that does it for our month of lawyer movies. If you are a Patreon member, make sure you join us for our live show next Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, and help us pick what our new theme and what our movies for next month is going to be. So start thinking about that. Submit your ideas. Post them, I don't know, wherever you can post to us. I don't care. And we'll see you next week.
All right,
See ya.
See ya.
Post them wherever we need
Yeah,
to
because
post
nobody's
them.
going to do it, so who cares? Okay.
Screen Riot Esquire.